Now, we need a way to store all of our blog posts and to be able to create new ones. And since we haven't integrated any real database at all, we're simply going to be using a JSON file to handle persistence. The LowDB package, which we installed earlier, it offers a nice wrapper around handling writes and reads of data via a JSON file. So we'll be using that for this situation. It's not the greatest solution. Usually we would use a serious database here like Postgres, but that's to come in a later lesson. So for the time being, all we need to do is create a data.json file here. Data.json is where all of our data is going to live. Or we can call it db.json actually. I think that's nicer because we're pretending it's a DB at the moment. And then let's also create a new file called storage.js. And this storage file is going to handle all of the access and read writes to the JSON file. So it'll be the interface over the JSON file. And all we're going to do here is we're going to create a simple storage class. We're going to say const lowdb equals require lowdb. And then we're going to say const file sync equals require lowdb adapters file sync. Now, if this doesn't make sense to you at the moment, that's totally okay. We haven't done anything other than import an adapter and the package that lowdb provides us that gives us this wrapper around whatever JSON file we decide. So we're going to create this storage class that's going to actually use lowdb, and it's going to have a constructor that whenever it's instantiated, it's going to say this.path is equal to the dir name. So this is a special variable in Node that holds a reference to the current directory name. So in this case, dir name for storage is the data directory. And so the path to the actual db.json file is just the dir name / db.json. Then we're going to call a this.setup method. So it's going to set up lowdb right here. And we're going to say async setup. Actually, I don't think we need to be async. We can just say setup. And the setup function, or method, is going to create the adapter from the package we installed here. New file sync. And it's going to take this.path. And then it's going to attach a DB. It's going to say this.db equals lowdb, which is the lowdb package. And it's going to accept the adapter. Great. So then we will set some defaults here. Let's go ahead and just add a nice little single empty JSON file here. Nothing in there. And then we're going to set some actual defaults here using the lowdb package. We'll say defaults. So if nothing is there, make sure that it has a posts array. And then we're going to write that default to the actual JSON file. We're then going to say, we're going to just create a simple get method here that takes in a key, and it's going to return this.db.get key. And all this is going to do, it's a very simple wrapper around calling this.db, the lowdb, with any key we want, which of course there's only one here, which is posts, but if we had more keys, this would be a lot more useful. Then we're going to module.exports a single version of the storage, a single instance. We're just saying new storage. And so it's going to create a new instance of the storage class. It's going to export it as storage, and it's going to allow us to do all the read and writes to this db.json file. Now when we save this, notice how the server does not restart here. That's because we've told it to ignore all changes inside the data directory. So it's actually ignoring any change in the data directory. So if we wanted this to work like we needed to, we'd have to restart the server at the moment. But since we're going to be doing a bit more here, we don't actually need to do that yet. So let's go ahead and head back into our models file, and let's import our storage. And we will require it from data/storage. And then we will use it to create a new post. So we will say, okay, const posted at, we will create a timestamp, new date .to ISO string. So this will just store a date of whenever the post was created. And then we will say const new post equals, and we're going to spread out all of the attributes of the post passed in here, and we're the posted at, attribute that we just created, and then we're going to take our storage, and we're going to call the get method that we defined with the only key in the object at the moment, the posts key, and we're going to push a new post, and then we're going to write it. Now, if this syntax looks a little silly to you, that's because it is, but it's actually part of the LowDB package. And so if you don't understand the syntax yet, don't worry about it too much. It's not super important. Let me explain briefly about what's happening here, but don't get tied up in this. Essentially, what happens is when we call the storage.getPosts, it calls this method here with the posts key, which access the DB and should have a single posts key, and it gets that key, which happens to be an array. We then push in the new post, and we write that data back to the JSON file. That's really all that's happening here. It's not something fancy. It's actually not even async. So we don't really need async here, but it's a good habit to get. It's good to get in the habit of doing this, because when we have an actual database, we're going to need to run asynchronous operations here. But for the time being, we can just return new post. And that should actually work like we expect it to. Now our server's restarted. Everything seems to be working as we want it to. Let's give it a whirl. I'm going to head over to my HTTP client, which I'm using Insomnia, but feel free to use whatever HTTP client works for you. Postman is another very, very useful one. And I'm going to say blog post, and I'm going to make it a post request with a JSON body, and I'm going to create this, and it is going to go to http://localhost 3001/blog, because this is the route. And then I'm going to attach a request body, and that request body is going to hold a single key, post, which all of the things I want my post to have. This should be surrounded with double quotes since it's JSON. It's going to have a title of new post. It's going to have a slug of new post, and it is going to have a actually, you know what? We're doing updated. All right, let's just keep it like that. Oh, we need some content for our actual post. Content. This is my brand new post. And then I'm going to send this, and let's hope it works. Cool. So we got this back. Something went wrong here. Let's go ahead and check it out. It looks like the request worked, and if we check out our JSON file, it did actually insert that new post into our posts array. But if we look here, we returned this new post with the post in here, and that all seemed to work. In our routes, however, I'm guessing that I messed up here. Oh yeah, we never actually grabbed that post and attached it to our response object. And so when I do this, I save it, I go back here, let's create another one. Second post. This is my second post, and send it again. Great. Okay, I see that this post has been created. It has my posted at timestamp. It's been sent back to me. When I look at my DB, it has the new post waiting and ready. And this is exactly what we want. So now all we need to do is implement the other two methods and routes for listing posts and fetching a post by a slug. The problem here is, well, actually, you know what? We'll get into the rest of this later. That's enough for this video. See you in the next one.